Hello everyone, I'm Moustafa Ismail and I'm here to speak about Saudi. When the guys from Motivate were telling me you need to come here and speak about Saudi, I was like, where do I start? Where do I end? Such a huge topic, so much has been happening. So I need to start somewhere. And we're going to talk a little bit about the predictions today. We're going to talk a little bit about a bit of history, what's been happening. And I'll go straight into the 90s. How many people here speak Arabic versus English? Okay, so probably a fair share. How many people here grew up in the region? Okay, so I guess some of you will relate to some of the things coming up. The 90s. This was the Saudi TV channel #1, and there was also Saudi TV channel #2. And it was a kind of a beef or chicken situation. All of the media was beef or chicken, and in some cases, like with airlines, you order for beef and there's no beef. And funny enough, does anybody know this guy? All right, so this guy was one of the top-rated people in the region at the time. He was the main leader of a program called The Fortress, and it was one of the highest-rated programs in Saudi during this time. It looked something as bizarre as I'm going to show you.
أيها المشاهدون الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من البرنامج الجماهيري الحصري. بعد هزيمة فريق المدافعين
So, this was the top-rated program at the time in the region. It's weird. Now things got even a bit weirder. In early 2000s, we still had a very, very low, people think, yeah, we've always been digital, this, that. Until the early 2000s, the digital penetration in Saudi was less than 10%. Actually, at the beginning, it was less than 5%. Ridiculous numbers, right? That gave a lot of space for the golden age of TV. All of these Egyptian channels started to come in, the Lebanese channels started to come in, and it was the first time the TV started to become a bit social. And we saw a trend happening there in Saudi at the time, where we saw Misho. Come on, the Lebanese guys here must remember this guy. So Misho was one of the top-rated guys. People would call him, speak to him for 2 minutes on the channel, and it was their moment of fame. This is it. If your line gets through to Misho, you've done it in life. You're set. You're set. Now it gets even more interesting. For me, this was probably also one of the most bizarre moments. Being an Egyptian on the Egyptian TV, this is an imitation of her. I really didn't want to put her. Basically, this woman would come on TV with the phone. There's nothing, there's no songs, nothing at all. It was one of the highest-rated TV programs at the time. People would call her, and she would answer every single person saying, "Hi, this is the Egyptian satellite channel, may we help you?" And people watch that. Now, my only understand, I'm trying to get over it, but why would she say that? They're watching TV, they know it's the Egyptian satellite, they've been trying to reach you for half an hour, and the logo is right there. But what's bizarre is that these were some of the top-rated TV channels at the time, which is very weird. Jan 2009, very sad events happened. Well, they've been happening every year since then. The floods in Jeddah. Now, there's a major, major issue in Jeddah with the drainage system in the city, and it's been happening for a while. But that year in specific was very interesting because people started to talk about it, take videos, and it became kind of, Twitter turned to become the majlis of the Saudi nationals. Come 2012, we see the YouTube boom in Saudi. So many people talking about YouTube content, the rise of U-turn, and you're talking about 6 to 10 views per day on YouTube. You're talking about a huge, huge number of influencers from Saudi showing up on YouTube. So that whole trend started to pick up. And the government started to realize, in a very controlled system, the government started to realize we need to go online as well and start speaking in this two-way communication system. So all of the governmental entities in Saudi started to go online. 13 to 17. The demographics of the country has changed to be one of the weirdest demographics in any country in the world, right? You're talking about 60% plus, and that's a conservative number, of the country being under the age of 30. But specifically at that time, you're talking between the age of 17 to 31, 32. So majority of the country is within that age, very active. They don't have a lot of activities, so you see that boom happening online. 6 hours a day on average on the internet, 96% mobile smartphone penetration, big numbers, 88% active on social media. And on a digital perspective, this is the holy grail, right? The Snapchat guys were like, yeah, that's it, you know? And then what we see after that is a huge dip in 2015 and 16. Some of the previous speakers spoke about this. In oil, right? Oil revenue started to really drop. The gold, the black gold is no longer there. And that pushed the country into a whole new system and in a whole new proposition with Vision 2030, which was launched by MBS. Now, this was launched a while ago, but we've only seen Vision 2030 really take shape in Saudi. That's why everyone is so excited and talking about Saudi and what's happening next and so on. We only started to see that vision happen in 2019. And in main 3 trends that I'm going to be speaking about today in a little bit more detail in our predictions for 2020. Trend number 1 is an obsession in Saudi with non-oil revenue streams. And that is for obvious reasons, because oil is no longer what it used to be. The rise of the entertainment and sports industry and women empowerment. And when I talk women empowerment, I'm not just saying another ad of a woman driving. No, I'm talking about hundreds of decisions that were taken in 2019, nearly a decision every single day empowering women, to the latest decision that was taken regarding the scarf. So in 2020, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about sports and entertainment in general, tourism and global events, and media and tech. So let's start with my favorite topic, because I like sports and I like entertainment. Sports and entertainment. Did anybody see this on social media? Okay. So this is in 2008, there was a concert for Tamer Hosni, who's an Egyptian singer. And on the ticket, where you had to mention if you're a single man or not, it was strictly written, dancing is strictly prohibited during the concert. So that was in 2018, guys. I'm not talking about 2010 here. 2019. This is in Saudi. We went from no dancing to PIMP. And you tell me why this is an interesting market and everyone is so curious about it. It doesn't make sense, right? But it does, because what we see in 2020 is that, and this is one of probably the most important trends that we're going to see, is that we see a culture completely adapted to the new Saudi. We will see a culture that can go to concerts, that for them it's not something that's weird. If I would have shown that video at the beginning of 2019, a lot of people would have been a bit shocked, like, is this in Saudi? Now you're not that surprised that this happened there after all the trending videos on social media, minus the Halloween party that some people got caught in, but that's a different story. The Saudi seasons will gain international reputation in 2020. In 2019, and this is very important for the media and the ad agencies and events agencies here in the room. Some of the issues that we faced this year with the Saudi seasons, it didn't have the reputation. Some of the artists weren't sure about coming. Next year is going to even be bigger. There were hundreds of artists. There is a multi-billion-dollar deal signed with Live Nation to ensure that all the different provinces in Saudi have something happening at some point, right? Which gives a huge opportunity for agencies like us and different agencies here in the room. Women's sport takes a turn, literally, from not pushing women activities and sports in the kingdom to having Lacey Evans and Natalia crown jewel match for WWE live streamed in Riyadh. So this is going to be something that's interesting to see. And for the football fans out there, we're also going to see the Spanish Super Cup soon. So Messi and the likes of Messi are going to be playing in Saudi to compete for surprisingly enough, a local Spanish Cup in Riyadh. Tell me if that makes sense. Very interestingly, this is not confirmed, so that I'm not here bluffing or saying anything, but there's a lot of discussions at the moment for a 2021 F1 race in Saudi. So the committee was pushing for this for a while now, and with F1 pushing to 24 races by 2021 and 2022, they're expecting Riyadh to be on the list along with the newly added Netherlands race. The second talk I want to discuss with you guys today is tourism and global events. $26 billion. $26 billion. This is the amount of money that Saudi spend abroad for tourism. Ridiculous figure, huge, huge figure by every means. And this is a conservative figure. We know that some expenditure is not discussed. But if you look at 2019, it was a year that was very successful when it comes to internal tourism. I'm not saying a big chunk, but a decent chunk of that money was pushed within things happening in Saudi Arabia. During Eid, living in Dubai, going to Dubai Mall, I'm sure you've seen more parking spaces. So, and this is because Saudis are spending more time in Saudi Arabia. That being said, 2020 is expected to be a year where we see more of foreign tourism. I'm not saying we're gonna, have all the Germans, the Italians, and the Americans in Saudi right away, but we're expecting a certain amount and a certain number of people to actually start going to Saudi. People interested in sea tourism, people interested in understanding new cultures, a different kind of religious tourism. And when we talk a little bit about religious tourism, you need to put something in mind that Mecca is actually super close to the Red Sea. And with the Red Sea opening a little bit, there's a lot of opportunity for the 15 to 18 million touristic pilgrimage or the Hajjaj, as they would say, to actually go to the Red Sea, depending whether they want to cleanse their sins before or after. But we see a big percentage, a big opportunity there actually. Very big announcement. Maybe some of you have heard, some of you haven't. So this was a picture taken in G20 Osaka Summit 2019. A lot of people were wondering the position where MBS is in today. And so this is because the Riyadh G20 Summit is going to actually happen in Saudi. So the G20 Summit, as some of you would know, is the biggest collection of world leaders. The 20 most powerful countries joined together to see, well, how they're going to conquer the rest of the world. But anyway, for Saudi, it's very interesting because it will be the grand opening of the financial district, one. It will also, a lot of discussion. Again, this is discussions, it's not confirmed. It's going to be a completely free visa zone. Meaning, if you get an invitation from someone there, there's a possibility that he can just send you the invitation on an online system and you don't even need a visa. You go directly from the airport to the financial district using a specific metro that connects both, finish your meeting, come back to Dubai. Or don't. It's totally up to you, right? There's a lot of events happening there. There's also a lot of discussion about entertainment when it comes to movies and cinema. So the Red Sea Film Festival, personally, is one thing that I'm very excited about. I think there's a lot of opportunities in Saudi when it comes to content and production, which brings us to the third topic of the day, which is media and technology. 2020 is expected, we're expecting to see the first Saudi-produced movie. It's going to be called Mukhtar, and it's going to be somewhere around a person that is talking to different civilizations and also portraying the Islamic civilization in a specific way in front of the West. We're also seeing, as many of the previous colleagues have discussed, the introduction of 5G. So all of you guys that have telco clients, initiative, yay, 5G, mobile, a lot of money. So good news there, but very interestingly, and many people don't understand or they don't see how big this is, right? Is the Aramco 5% IPO. I'm talking about 5%, guys. The 5% of Aramco is equivalent to $100 billion. That's a billion with a B, right? A lot of that money is being pushed towards startups, towards technology. There's a lot of entities in Saudi, such as Munshaat, which are very focused to ensure that by 2030, around 35 to 45% of the GDP of Saudi is from startups and people under the age of 35. So there's a huge focus to start literally taking oil money now and start spending it towards these industries and these entities. To put this in perspective, Aramco is the most profitable company in the world. Again, to give you a bigger perspective, Apple is worth $1 trillion plus. Aramco is worth evaluated at $2 trillion. So Aramco is twice the size of Apple. Lots of money there. I mean, if things get really bad, push another 1% or 2%, things will be fine. A topic where we're seeing a lot of discussion and, well, controversy is 2020 will see a year of more Saudi hires. The government has very strict rules to apply this. Everyone needs to do it. And I know that this is a challenge that everyone is facing in the industry, finding the right talent. Maybe the Saudi workforce is not completely ready yet, but they have to start somewhere. Emiratization, when it started 15 to 20 years ago, they faced same problems, and look at where they are now. I know different demographics, 10% only are the UAE nationals here. You're talking about 95% in Saudi, but I see this as also a good thing in the region here, or for Saudi, for a few reasons. So I'm not completely with the fact that this is just a huge challenge. I think we have some positive things to take out of this. Local talent will mean more cultural sensitive communication and better Saudi dialect. We need to have local talent. We need to understand what they understand. I'll tell you a funny story. The other day I was with one of my clients. He's from Egypt and his CEO is from Lebanon, and we're having a discussion for our production. So our Saudi team came up with this idea. They sent it to us, and they said, the creative team, they said, this is an amazing production. Look at this. It's so cool. It's so funny. So they happened to be at my office at the time. We're just talking, and we just go through it, and we're like, what is this? Like, this is not funny. It doesn't look very funny. He's like, okay, let's get some of the Saudis in. So we showed it to the Saudis. We showed them all these details, and all of we looking, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, so funny. They're on the floor laughing, and it was a, sorry for the word, WTF moment, which made me realize that our humor in Egypt and Levant is very, very different from the Saudi humor. What we find funny is not necessarily what the Saudis find funny. Having local talent will help you identify this. It will help you understand that. So it will also help us have more on videos like these. The video you're gonna see is one of the ads that were trending in Saudi. It was the first time that you get a true Bedouin. I know the back end of the story. A true Bedouin who's a camel whisperer. I always know you can call cats and dogs. Apparently you can call camels as well. And this guy is a true camel whisperer. So that's, what you're gonna hear is what he says to call camels. This guy's not an actor. That's what he actually does for a living. I find that surprising. And another surprising fact is that he looks exactly like the White Walker from Game of Thrones. Like, very, very close there. But we'll also see, interesting stuff. Some of you have seen it. Just to wake you guys up a So this was a good example of culturally sensitive content, right? And also, I can't believe how, I'm trying to understand from a casting agency perspective, how were they able to find the professor? Like, this is beyond me. I want to hire this agency for the rest of my life. So anybody from that agency? No? Okay. So, local talent will also, hopefully, mean less of what I'm going to show. And excuse me if I skip some parts, if you can just see, because it's going to be embarrassing for me to talk about it. So, brands talking about the empty quarter. I removed some logos from here. There were some brands last year and the year before talking about life in the empty quarter. There's a reason why it's called the empty quarter. There is no life. There is nothing there. It's completely empty. So that's an interesting one. This is in Saudi. The picture on the left-hand side, or right if you're looking at that part, is a word that should not be used in Saudi. Of course, this was put down. And this picture here is towards a Saudi traditional event that's using Lebanese slang. Nothing against Lebanon or Egypt or any country. It's just, since it's a traditional event, you might probably need to use Saudi slang, maybe. This picture I'm gonna skip, but for you who speak Arabic, it's clear. For you who speak English, basically she's saying, anyone can help here, so I don't end up in jail after? No? All right, fine. So she's basically saying, take a selfie and the prize might be my bottom, right? So, but this is something a little bit extreme. This went viral and this was an actual campaign, right? Someone really doesn't know their copywriting. Moreover, and before I conclude, in Saudi today, self-brand has become so important. Everyone looks at social media, what they present, who they are, who are they influencing. This goes a lot back to the tribal societies, and that mentality is still there. So according to Hofstede, which is a cultural dimension study that's done across many countries, Saudi scores very little when it comes to individualism, meaning that they care so much more about society, and their decisions that they take comes more from society than it actually comes from within. Therefore, influencers in Saudi are extremely strong, and that trend we see it actually continuing even with micro-influencers and nano-influencers in 2020. In summary, for 2020, we're going to see a more economically diversified Saudi. We're going to see a Saudi open to foreign tourism. We're going to see more of a Saudi filled with sports and entertainment events that are fueled with an optimistic local workforce. And before I go, I think we should stay optimistic. I tell myself this every day. I'm trying to. And I would like to show you a video done with one of our partners, MISC Foundation, about Saudi. Thank you very much.
هذه البلاد وهذه أبعادها، حبا يضيف إلى الديار ديارا.